Welcome in, everybody. Good afternoon. This is the Fantasy Roundup on bet.NOLA.com, brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Zach Ewing, along with Spencer, the Guru Urquhart, back at home sweet home in Baton Rouge after a weekend in New Orleans for the Final Four. And look, it's the sports world never stops, man. The Final Four ends in New Orleans last night. All of a sudden, you got baseball opening day on Thursday. You have the Masters this weekend. NASCAR rolls on. The NBA has about a week left in the regular season, and then it's into the play-in tournament and the playoffs for the NBA. And listen, you got Champions League going on today. It just never stops, Spencer.
Yeah, that's big facts there, Zach. All kind of stuff going on, and yeah, I'm really excited to see how this NBA shakes out. They still got a lot of seeds yet to be determined. A few teams have clinched their spots, but not many have settled into their respective seeds as far as who they're going to play in the opening round there. So yeah, it's going to be a lot to be settled. Only a few games to go. The Pels have the Kings tonight. I have them as the top bet for daily best bets today. So we'll see if they can come through on that.
Yeah, you can check out our daily best bets every day on bet.NOLA.com. And so we have a packed show today. This is a fantasy show, but we're also going to talk a little golf betting. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit of fantasy basketball since that's wrapping up or has already wrapped up in some leagues. Then we're going to have Uncle Big Nick on to talk Masters, and I'm really looking forward to that. He's been on a crazy hot streak. Jim's not here, so we can talk some crap about Jim. And, it's just going to be very exciting for a good 20, 30 minutes talking about golf, your DFS plays, your betting plays, the difference in how you should approach those things. And then at the end of the show, we're also going to come back. We'll talk some fantasy baseball. I know we had our fantasy baseball preview last week, but we'll come back and do, maybe some things that have changed in your mind, Spencer, since then with the season starting Thursday. And then you've also got some dynasty football rankings. So a big jam-packed show here on the Fantasy Roundup. I do want to remind everyone that if you have not signed up for the Caesar Sportsbook app, you can do so at NOLA.com/Caesars. Your first bet insured up to $1,100. So you could make a big freaking Masters bet, man. You could bet a big Masters. They're all big numbers. I mean, the favorite is Jon Rahm at 10-1. So whatever you bet, you could really be in for a big payday. And then if you lose, you get the money back and you can bet it on something else, maybe with some lower odds. So look, it's a good deal. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars to get that. All right, Spencer, we're going to start with fantasy basketball just for a couple minutes. And I got to say, I'm in the championship of our league. And I think you know the guy I'm playing. I don't know him. Speaking of Uncle Big Nick's crazy hot streak, like in our league, so 30 points is like a good day for a player. 40 points is a real good day. And then some of the superstars will get your 60, 70 point days. And you can play up to 10. Obviously, not everybody's playing every day. But we're in a close matchup. It's a 2-week matchup. And on Sunday, I racked up like 400 points, which is a phenomenal day. I think it was like 380 something. But that means of 10 players, they averaged almost 40 points. Nikola Jokic had a big day. Anthony Davis had a big day. Like, great day. The guy I'm playing was at 477. It's like, how are you supposed to compete with that? I mean, he had every single guy in his lineup just go off. So,
it's wild. Yeah, that's my buddy Josh Como. Yeah, he knows his stuff. He's the runner-up from last year. So, yeah, he's hungry to try to get his first title. So, yeah,
I'd like to make him the runner-up again, but I don't like my chances with just 5 days left. I'm nursing about 150-point deficit. But one of the guys he's got is on your list here. In fact, I've got Jonas Valanciunas. He's got Darius Garland, who was one of the guys who just completely went off for him yesterday. Here are your 5 fantasy basketball surprises of the season.
Yep, starting at the top with Dejounte Murray. Yeah, he really took a huge leap this year for the Spurs. You know, they needed somebody to step up and be that alpha dog with no more Kawhi Leonard and, of course, no more Tim Duncan. They needed some new blood there, and Murray looks like the guy. He's done amazing this year. Been at the level of almost a first-round pick. I think he was drafted as like a 3rd or 4th rounder, but he's really exceeded expectations there. And then Garland had a few nicks and bruises along the way, but when healthy, he's been an absolute stud. Then Miles Bridges kind of came out of nowhere. The Hornets have been a surprise team, and Bridges been a big part of that. And then, of course, Jonas for the Pels has done his thing, done really good, been a great fit down here in NOLA and been a really good fantasy asset as well. And then a rookie there in Scotty Barnes, the Raptors are just one of those teams that they just seem to plug and play guys, and Barnes is rookies a lot of times take a while, but he's stepped right in there and been a real life asset as well as a fantasy stud.
I mean, if you picked Cade Cunningham or Jalen Green, the guys at the top of the NBA draft, as the first rookies off the board, they've really been kind of disappointing. But by the way, the number in these graphics is their average points per game in standard scoring. So as I said, like 30 is a good game, 40 is real good, et cetera, et cetera. As far as disappointments, one of the guys I just mentioned, Jalen Green among them, Michael Porter Jr. at the top of the list. He's been hurt most of the year.
Right. Yeah. Try not to go with too many injured guys, but guys like Bradley Beal or Zion, guys that were missed most or all of the year. But I put Michael Porter though because man, when he played, he struggled. I mean, the 20-point average, that's terrible for somebody that was expected to be a budding star in this league next to Jokic. The Nuggets, with him and Murray hurt, it's basically been all on Jokic. So yeah, Porter, huge disappointment. And Montrezl Harrell was supposed to have a nice year, but he's just been kind of meh. Hadn't really seen starters minutes. Same thing with Rashawn Holmes, center. The centers are a dying breed, and yeah, both of them have kind of gotten phased out there. And then the rookie Jalen Green, Cunningham, I know you mentioned him in the same breath as Green, but at least Cunningham's picked it up here down the stretch. Green is just, man, he's just such a roller coaster. He'll have a good game every now and then, but a lot of times he just gives you nothing. He's been frustrating. And then Devontae Graham hadn't been that great of a fit for the Pels, and especially ever since they got McCollum, he's basically faded into irrelevancy.
Yeah, he's certainly struggled. I think I had him for a while and dropped him. Spencer, any overarching themes you take away from this fantasy basketball season? When you go into next year, you'll remember as far as what positions to target, certain types of guys you're avoiding, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say because I didn't have the best year in our league. I'll just be real. I didn't make the playoffs, but a lot of it was because I spent a little too much draft capital on guys that were a little up in age. Bradley Beal, not that old, but again, not a spring chicken. A guy like Jason Tatum, you got him and Devin Booker. I had both of them. They were really good, but I made a few errors, and of course with Zach and my buddy Josh in the league, can't slip up too much. It's a super competitive league, but that's how I like it. I always like to challenge myself in the leagues. I don't like to just play with a bunch of novices. You want to push yourself. But anyway, I guess that'd be my biggest takeaway. Would just be for anybody out there, don't take too many older guys. Just look at the Lakers, even a real life example of that. You can't be too old, or else you're not gonna be able to keep up. And then also the bigs, like I say about Rashawn Holmes, Montrezl Harrell, it's just like, obviously your elite bigs like Embiid and Karl Towns are worth early picks. But for the mid rounds, I'd probably say stack up on guards and wings, and then try to find like a late round big or two to fill out your roster. Kind of like with Jonas this year. Don't waste a pick on a big that could be good, but probably won't be.
Yeah, we'll ask you all that stuff again next fall when we get ready for the next fantasy basketball season. But a little less than a week left in the NBA season, so good luck if you're still in your league. By the way, if you have questions, comments, leave them on the in Facebook or YouTube. We will see them. We can put them on the air. And I hope there's a lot of questions here. Speaking of guys who are competitive and guys who are doing well, Uncle Big Nick in the golf world, we're going to bring him on to talk a little Masters. Nick, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. How y'all doing?
You got the Tiger hat on. I like the style.
Well, I thought Jim was going to be on the show, and I was going to show him that I'm not a size 9 hat, that I am a 7 3/4. But
we'll send him the tape though. Show us that size. Take the headset off.
I wear mostly the large, extra large, like not the
Okay.
It don't show the size.
But is this like the elastic kind? Because then you're
it's the stretch.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, it's large, extra large. It ain't double.
It's not the 2X. Yeah.
Yeah, they like my shirts, All
right. Well, I want you to speaking of caps, put your best Jim Derry cap on and brag a little bit here. What's your profit like since the beginning of the year on golf, both DFS and betting?
It's been 30, 40 units. I mean, it's good. I mean, I've had 15 tournaments. I've had 6 winners, 4 seconds, which you don't get anything for second, but still 150, 160 players. You're getting first and seconds in there. I'm always up there on Sundays. The last 2 weeks in fantasy, I've hit 2 first place in smaller fields, 500, 600 people. This week I had 47,000 people. I finished top 50, and I was only 32 points away from the 200K, the big one, in first place. And
no,
it was just my guys played 1 under, 2 under over the weekend, not 3 under, 4 under. That's why I didn't move up over the weekend. All 6 of my guys made the cut, but it just didn't happen in the weekend. But top 50 out of 47K is pretty good.
Well, and as we'll talk about as we go forward, betting on golf and playing fantasy golf it's a little bit different. You're just not going to pick a high rate of winners, and you can bet on top 10s and top 20s and things like that. But the idea is if you keep in the conversation, if you're getting those second places and getting a lot of guys to make cuts in fantasy and things like that, the idea is eventually you hit one. You need a little bit of luck on that particular weekend.
Yeah, it's so much harder in my eyes to pick 6 guys that's going to do good for 4 days than pick one guy that could win. A winner could have a bad day. They could have a bad Friday, make the cut, and then make a run on the weekend. You have a bad day in fantasy, you in a big league like that, you're not. When you got 47,000 people, you're not gaining any ground. It moves hole by hole. I'll jump from 100th place to 2nd place in 3 holes. It's just crazy because you got so many people playing.
And that's the thing, is it's DFS, and so it's over in a weekend. But people who are used to season-long leagues in other fantasy sports, you don't realize every last shot is important on those things.
Oh, it's a sweat every Sunday. It's like just watching every shot.
Well, let's talk a little betting first, and then we'll circle back to fantasy and kind of the differences between the two. But here are your Masters odds. We showed this yesterday on Bayou Bets. Odds have changed just a little bit. John Rahm, your favorite, 10-1. Justin Thomas, 12-1. You can find slightly different odds at different sports books. This is from Caesars. At the top of the list here, Nick, who are you on?
JT is the only. Well, I see Rory. JT and Rory are the only 2 on this page that I really, really like. I've already bet them too. JT's does really well here. He was in the contention last year when Hideki won, but that rain delay came, and I don't know what happened to him. He quadruple bogeyed or triple bogeyed right after the rain delay, so played himself out of it. He's just been playing really well, and it's one of these guys where he's got to win a green jacket. He's just so good. Same thing with Rory. Rory's been playing well. The course is going to be wet. It's going to be soft. I love Rory at courses like that. The only thing I don't like about Rory with this and why I like JT more is because Rory has never won a tournament where the score was under 10 under. He's always in the shootouts, and he's always winning shootouts. But these tough, 8, 9 under, tournament winners, he's never won one. And I don't think this is going to be a shootout. This ain't going to be a birdie fest. This is going to be maybe 9, 10 under winning this thing, All
right. How about guys, somebody on this list who you're definitely staying away from in fantasy and betting? Just don't think he'll have a good week.
Hovland. It's going to be a lot of around the green play, and he is terrible around the greens. It's going to be a lot of, chipping and playing around the greens, playing out of bunkers, stuff like that, and he's really bad at that. He's about the only one on this list I'm staying away from.
Gotcha. So yeah, Nick, I know it's not on the list here, but I just wanted to address the elephant in the room. Tiger Woods' return. Do you think it's worth a shot, or it's just too much of a risk coming off injury?
It all depends. If we're talking outrights, I am not betting him for an outright. Would anybody be surprised if he won? No. But I'm not putting my money on it. I'm putting my money on him making the cut because I can see the cut being +4, +5, and because of the way the weather's going to be this weekend. And I think Tiger can shoot that in his sleep at the Masters. So, the thing about Tiger is what happens if he does shoot well? We get to Sunday and he's in the final 3 groups. You think the other people in them groups, they could be just nervous as hell with him lurking.
Stomach goes to your throat at that point.
Yeah, I mean, knowing how good he is at this course, I mean, it's just the anticipation is gonna be fun. Scott Van Pelt said that other players could play nude if Tiger plays, and nobody would even know they on the course.
Right. Yeah, that's why I asked. You know,
Right.
it's gonna be so much attention, surrounding him, especially if he can make the cut. So
I
yeah,
love Tiger, but that's the only thing I don't like is that I'm not gonna be able to watch anybody I have money on because they're gonna show every shot, all the cover. They're gonna show him walking because that's gonna be a big deal. Can he walk the course? It's gonna be worse than normal.
Tiger is on this second page of odds here, and he was 50-1 when we talked yesterday. He's 40-1 now. Of course, he says today, the quote was, as of right now, I'd be playing. So I guess that's where the odd shift comes in, and he's going to get a lot of public money. People who don't even know that they think he's going to win. They just want to have money on him in case he does. Have probably bet on Tiger, and so the odds drop, but. Between these guys, maybe there's another long shot out there you like, Nick. Long shots don't win the Masters a ton. Danny Willett being the only exception in recent history, at 66-1, I think it was. But what do you like on this second page?
There's a couple I like here. I like Leishman. I really liked Neiman at one point, but Neiman is going to be in the group with Tiger Thursday and Friday, and I don't know if he can stand up to that pressure because I mean he's going to have so many people following him and watching him. And he played really well at Riviera, which Riviera to me is a good comp to the Augusta. So I really liked him. I just don't know if I can pull the trigger with him playing with Tiger. Finau I like. He's good around here. You're going to have to be long to win because, I mean, you're not going to get any run out. The green fairways are going to be wet. So Finau would have won last week if he could make a 3-foot putt. I mean, he missed like 4-foot birdie putts. And I just don't see that being sustainable. And he hits the ball well. If the weather gets too bad, Lowry's a good play here. A lot of these guys on this page, I'll be looking at live. Like Casey's example. Casey pulled out with a back injury of the match play. Casey's a good play here. I'm gonna bet him top 20, but I got to see if he's healthy. A lot of these guys with nagging injuries, I'm going to watch the first couple of rounds.
So I was going to ask what it is you're looking for live. It's just the fact that, hey, they're healthy, they're not pulling out, and they're not dropping strokes left and right.
Yeah, they're not dropping. Yeah, they're not pulling out. It looks like he's healthy. He's okay. Like you could tell the way the guy's playing. Bryson's on this. Yeah, Bryson's the same way, but I don't like Bryson at Augusta at all. So he's injured. Matsuyama's injured. Casey's got a nagging injury. That's all up in the air, guys.
Anybody from the bottom of the page, and the name that sticks out to me is Tom Hoge. That just seems, I don't know that he's going to win, but 125-1 seems astronomically high for him.
Well, Hoge, I mean, he's a debutant. He's his first time here. Yeah, he won at Pebble. I was on him at Pebble and won a lot with him. And I said then that I was going to bet him top 20 in every major this year. So I'm betting him top 20. He's been in horrible form the last 3 weeks. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened. Did the wind go to his head? Is he nervous about Augusta? But I am betting him top 20. I think top 20 is plus 350. So, I mean, you just got to finish in the top 20,
Yeah, all sorts of different options for betting, top 20, top 10. Top European player, top English player, top American player. I mean, there's all sorts of different props you can find on Caesar Sportsbook, and the other apps have different ones as well. So if you want to get into it, it's a great time to do it.
The thing about golf betting, like I said on the Attitude, you could be wrong 9 times, but if you write the 10th person you pick, you're still winning money. Like you play football, you can't lose 9 football games, and just because you win the 10th, still make a profit. You could do that in golf. I could be wrong 9 times.
And that's a good reminder. If you want more from Uncle Big Nick, he was on Datitude this morning with Jim. So, their hijinks will be there, and also a lot of golf advice. So, talk to us, Nick, about the difference between betting outrights, betting top 20s, and looking at DFS. What are the differences in players you're looking for as you build your lineup versus who you're going to bet on?
When you're building a lineup, when you're picking an outright, it doesn't matter if all 3 of us had the same outright. I mean, who cares if we all win? We're not playing against each other. In fantasy, you're playing against each other. So you're trying to pick guys that you think's going to do well, finish top 5, top 10. You don't necessarily have to have the winner, although it helps. But I kind of look for guys that are not highly owned, especially right now in this condensed field. You only got 91 players. The top 50 in ties are making the cut. Then you're going to you got all the old, like, winners, Fred Couples, Langer. None of them guys are going to compete, They're just there to be there. So you're going to have almost everybody's going to make the cut. So the way you find advantages is picking somebody that's 10% owned, 11% owned. Not like JT. JT's going to be over 20% owned in these big fantasy, contests. So Rory right now is a projected 8% owned. I mean, do you think that JT is 3 times better than Rory? I mean, that's the kind of things you got to look at. Okay, JT might win. Rory might finish top 5. You still gonna get almost the same amount of points.
There are sites that project these ownerships. So that's where you're getting those numbers from. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can follow Twitter. You can follow all kind of sites that do projected ownership. And that's what you got to look at.
Gotcha. So Nick, when evaluating a tournament beforehand, do you look more at how the golfer has played recently, or do you look more at their history at that specific course?
History at the course means a lot here. I mean, it's week by week. Weather plays a big factor on my fantasy lineups. Like, for example, at the Augusta this week, you're going to have your best scoring days are going to be Thursday and Sunday. The Thursday morning groups that tee off Thursday morning are going to tee off Friday evening. Your worst weather is going to be Friday evening. It's going to be 25 to 30 mile an hour gust. So I'm kind of building my lineups. I'm going to be stacking guys that play PM, AM, meaning they tee off late Thursday and tee off early Friday to get out and get done before that wind gets there. So that's the kind of things you kind of look at. That's where I go with building lineups.
Mm-hmm. So the weather plays a big factor.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
then.
Yeah. I'll know more about the weather where golfers are playing than I know here during the week.
Gotcha.
There's so much that goes into, my homework and all the stuff I do. It's not just picking names out of a hat. I spend 8-10 hours a week on this.
And a lot of that too is it's not just course history, but you mentioned Riviera, like other courses that are similar to this one.
Yeah,
because these guys only play these courses once a year, so you need a few more comps than that.
And this is the only course that they play every year, like in a major. This is the only course that is just at the same course every year. And the reason why, get debutants that first get here, everything on this course slants to Rays Creek, and like the whole course is on an angle, kind of. It's on the side of a hill. So it's hard to read these greens and read these fairways. You always got your ball below your feet or above your feet. So I normally pick guys that third year and more. Like, I don't pick the guys for the first 2 years that play there. It's guys third year, fifth year, stuff like that you got to look at. That's why I love JT so much this week, because you're going to have a lot of wind. He's got Bones McKay on the bag. Bones has played 12, 15 times here with Phil. So he's going to have that in his back pocket, knowing where to hit the ball, where to miss.
Yeah, just a little bit of everything to kind of talk about. And like you said, I mean, I've seen your sort of research sheets. It looks like a beautiful mind. I mean, you've got all these different numbers and different guys who are fit different categories for you.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, my 10-year-old yesterday, she said, "Oh, we got testing," because we go home and do homework. She said, "We got testing. You don't have to do schoolwork with me. You could just do all your golf homework now." So that's how bad it is at my house with golf homework.
Yeah. Well, it pays off though, or at least it has this year. So here's talking about DFS now as we switch gears more to the fantasy part of it. You mentioned Rory, where Rory's an expensive price. I think the top price $11,000 on DraftKings. It's somewhat similar to football, but you're only picking 6 guys, so the prices are a little bit higher. So Rory's a high price, but you feel like he's worth it because the ownership will be low.
Right. I mean, he's 10,000, but I mean, JT's higher. Scotty Scheffler's higher. John Rahm's higher. Dustin Johnson, I think, is higher. So, I mean, you're kind of getting value there, especially with the ownership.
And then these other guys, Thomas Peters, a guy not a lot of people would think about as far as winning this tournament. But again, with DFS, you're not necessarily looking at winning.
Yeah, Peters, I like him. I mean, he's one of my long shots to win. He's played here twice. This is his third appearance, so he fits that mold for me. He was first time he missed the cut. Second time he played here, he finished top 4. So he's one of them long ball hitters. He's going to hit it far. He's good with his long irons. He played really well in the match play. So I like the form he's coming into, and I like him in this. And he fits that PM AM mode I was talking about. So that's all in that,
Yeah, one thing you've that we should mention when you play DraftKings for golf, you get like not all scores are created equal, and by that I mean if Rory and JT are both 8 under for the week, well in DFS golf, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I mean if one of them has 16 birdies and 8 bogeys, and the other one has 24 birdies and 16 bogeys, the 24 birdies is going to score higher because you're getting more points for a birdie than you lose for a bogey.
Right, exactly. Or if you got eagles in there,
yeah,
you get extra points for bogey-free rounds. I mean, you get a bunch of extra points. And the thing on Sundays, like the first place gets 30. If you got a guy that's in first place, he gets an extra 30 points. Second place gets like an extra 20. So your standings matter when it comes to Sunday.
Yeah, so of course where they finish is probably the most important thing, but how you arrive at that score could vary from player to player.
Right. And like I was saying with the ownership, I mean, last week when I had that top 50 at 47,000, all of my 6 guys, none of them were over 14% owned, and they all made the cut. So I mean, that's the kind of stuff. That's how you get yourself in the mix on a Saturday and a Sunday, in other words.
Do you ever hedge when you are in a big DFS lineup where you have a chance to win a lot of money on a Sunday, and then you go in and bet a matchup and bet against a guy?
I'm not a big matchup guy. I don't bet a lot of matchups. A lot of pros do. I just don't. I don't know why I don't, but I do it every now and then. I might do it for the Masters, but it ain't something I do every tournament. And I'm hardly ever a hedger. Jim always yells at me about that. But
no, Jim's a big hedger. Jim gets scared.
Oh, big time. He has no cojones at all.
Sometimes you just got to let it ride, man.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, before we let you go, final thoughts on the Masters. People getting into golf betting for the first time, or maybe they've dabbled in it, but they want to get more into it. What advice do you have for
them? I spent the whole month of December when they were off figuring out who to follow on Twitter and podcasts and stuff like that to find out who was full of it and who was real. And I found a couple of guys that are pretty real, and that's what helped me a lot. And so that's what I would suggest. I mean, Andy Lack is really good, and Rick Gaiman is the 2 guys that I follow religiously. Andy Lack had JJ Spawn last week, and that was a big hit for me. It was 150-1. So I mean, it's finding the people that know more than me. I'm learning a lot. I mean, it's been since January. I could do this on my own now, but it's helpful. I do mine, and then I compare it to them, and then if it's right, it's right. That's the way I feel. And that's the thing about fantasy. I'm playing against those guys, so I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, you can't just parrot what they do.
Right.
They're not going to give you their exact line.
They're not giving you. They're not giving you the keys to the kingdom. They don't care about outrights. Like I said, everybody can hit an outright. It's great. It's like playing blackjack. You're just trying to beat the dealer. Like, you don't care if your guy next to you gets a good hand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a whole new world out there, and I'm with you. I'm learning as we go too. So, Uncle Big Nick, we appreciate the time. Good luck this week, and we'll have you back soon.
All right, thank you, bud.
All right, thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
That's Uncle Big Nick. He's talking Masters. And again, if you want more, he was on Datitude this morning with Jim Derry. That's available on bet.nola.com, also on all major podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts. I always forget the names of these things. You people know who they are.
Yeah.
Spotify. If you have a podcasting platform, Datitude is on it. That new episode dropped this morning, so check it out. Let's move forward. We talked a lot of golf, and it's a big week for golf. It's also a big week for baseball, Spencer. Opening day is Thursday. You get to wake up, watch the Masters. Maybe you stream it at work. You got that little window you can click to cover up the live stream if you get in trouble for that sort of stuff at work. And then in the afternoon, you get some baseball games. And when you go home at night, you got a lot of baseball on that night. So fantasy baseball, of course, starting up too. And one thing we asked, we had our fantasy baseball preview show, a full hour of fantasy baseball with myself and Spencer and Jim on, I think it was on March 27th or something like that. It was on a Friday. And so check that out on bet.nola.com. I'll link to it in the description for this video as well. If you want to know the full rundown of Spencer's rankings and guys we're targeting in drafts and all of that sort of stuff. My guess would be at this point, most leagues have drafted. So we will,
sure.
Maybe there's a couple here tonight or tomorrow night, or maybe even over the weekend, you just toss out the first weekend of games. But for the most part, most people have drafted. And so what I did, Spencer, was ask you to come up with a few guys that you're a little bit higher on than you were a week and a half ago, and a few guys you're a little bit lower on. And some of that is injury based, some of that is spring training performance based, although I personally don't put a ton of stock into spring training stats. But basically, guys, maybe you go target in trades or go see if they're on your waiver wire, or guys you might look to give away. And so first, the guys that we're looking to add, and most of these guys, maybe at least the top three names were probably taken in your draft if it was any time in the last week or two. But those top two guys, hot prospects, who just in the last 24 hours both found out that they are going to be on the opening day roster.
Right, yeah, Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, 5-tool potential for both of these guys. Glad to see that the new CBA is somewhat motivated these teams to get these young studs up right away, because on the old one, there may have been a chance they would have sent them down a few weeks to manipulate the service time, but they're up and ready to roll. I think they're going to both be startable fantasy assets right out the chute. And then Craig Kimbrell getting traded to the Dodgers was big. He goes from a setup man to a closer. And for those that play 5x5, obviously being a closer on a good team like the Dodgers is going to rack up a lot of saves and be a valuable piece. Then the last two, Joe Ryan, been on the rise for the Twins. He's going to be their opening day starter. Has a really low walk rate and some strikeout potential. A guy that and a good lineup behind him could rack up wins too. He could be a sneaky guy that might still be on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. And then Gavin Lux, another beneficiary of that Kimbrell trade, because now at AJ Pollock shipped out of town, Lux appears to be in line to be the everyday second baseman.
Yeah, and I had a chance to topper rights on Lux in one of my auction leagues and didn't take it because this was before I knew. And I said, well, it was a $12 price. It just seemed a little pricey for a guy you didn't know was going to be started. I like Gavin Lux, but you just don't know where the at-bats are going to come from. So now it looks like they have some at-bats. So I like those. And then the other side of the coin, some of these are just simply injury-based. You just, you don't want to have too many guys on a given roster who have injuries. But others are opportunity-based as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, start with DeGrom. Yeah, he's got hurt there, going to miss at least a month, maybe more. It's a shame. He's so talented. It's kind of like with Fernando Tatis. I mean, if he could stay healthy, he'd be a high first rounder. But with all the injury concerns, it's just a headache for fantasy. Same thing with Lance McCullers. I mean, he's not on DeGrom's level, but when healthy, he's a starting pitcher. And now he's not even started throwing yet. He might miss the whole first half the way it's looking. And Blake Trinan, obviously his stock goes down now that Kimbrell's in town. He shifts back to being the setup guy. Kyle Lewis, another one that's injured. And then with Julio Rodriguez called up, it's going to be tough for him to get at bats even when he comes back. And then Michael Conforto never found a home before opening day. A lot of people drafted him thinking he'd have a home, but I mean, shoot, as a free agent still, I don't know. I don't think he's even worth a stash because he's good when he's playing, but I just say you can't put him on your IL slot. He's just dead weight on your roster. So I would probably just drop him and hope to get him back once he signs.
Yeah, if you have a reserve slot or an inactive slot, maybe you could put him there. But what I read on Conforto is that there may be an injury there, and he wants to be healthy when he signs and show teams that he's healthy because that will help him get a bigger contract. So that may be
Okay.
a waiting game as well, where I think it's an oblique injury. Whatever it is, he wants to wait that out, then do tryouts for teams. But the problem with that is, of course, he would need to go through some semblance of spring training as well after he signs. And so usually you can't just jump right into it after an injury and a signing. You're going to have to build it up, and you may not be playing till June anyway. So I'm with you there. I don't know that it's worth it. I guess we'll see. But fantasy baseball, man, getting started very soon.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, did my 2 drafts over the weekend. Pretty happy with my teams there. Got Ohtani with the first pick in one league, and the other league was a keeper league. Didn't have any like superstars in that one because I was taking over an orphan team, but pretty solid squad overall. Going to have to scratch and claw my way up the totem pole there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's sometimes the way it goes with those keeper leagues. Well, last but certainly not least, we do want to have some fantasy football talk. We have Spencer the Guru's Dynasty Football Rankings here on the Fantasy Roundup. We are brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. We're going to dig right into those. And Spencer, just to clarify for those who may just see the rankings, these are not your rankings for next season. These are rankings for Dynasty, meaning multiple years of ownership.
Correct. Yeah. So on a lot of the if you're younger, you're gonna be favored, and if you're a little older, you're gonna probably be lower than you will be for redraft leagues. Just for 2022, this dynasty is it's a dynasty leagues as far as leagues that, assuming you can keep them together, will last for the next decade plus.
Right, and so here we go with the quarterbacks, and again, I mean this is actually probably pretty close to what your quarterback list looks like anyway, because there are so many good young quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the first 4 will probably be the same order as I'd have them in redraft. Josh Allen, the top, the rushing ability on top of the passing, and Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, all elite passers. Kyler Murray's tough to gauge. I mean, he could be in that tier, but he's also, he didn't run as much last year, and he's so inconsistent. And him and Lamar Jackson are very interesting. Dak, I feel, is a pretty safe play. A lot of people probably would say, "Oh, you should have Lamar and Watson over Dak," but I feel like Dak's in a more favorable system. Watson there at Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski's a run-first guy. I know they paid him all that money, but I don't expect Watson to light the world on fire for fantasy. I think he'll put up numbers, but he's not gonna be the gunslinger type passer that he was in Houston. And then the bottom 4 there, Russ in Denver, he sees the stock up. He's getting a little up in age though. And the same with Matthew Stafford. I think they've still got some good years in them, but they'd probably be a little higher in my redraft rankings. And then Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence, the opposite side of the coin, probably won't be quite this high in my redraft rankings. But here for Dynasty, they're guys that have obviously yet to hit their ceiling. I know they didn't do a whole lot as rookies, but I think they're much better things are on the horizon for them. They've got elite ability.
Yeah, I like the pick of Lawrence because I just don't think last year was a fair opportunity. The talent around him was no good. The coach situation was an abject disaster, as we all know. We won't get into that, but I think he's still the same guy who was the unanimous choice to be the number 1 pick in last year's draft. And by the way, the NFL draft is coming up here in 3 weeks from Thursday, and there will probably be some guys added to this list from that draft.
Yeah, especially for the running backs. I know Breece Hall's ranked pretty high. He might crack the top 12 for the running backs for sure. And then the receivers are good. What about Hall?
Yeah, Breece Hall from Iowa State, I was going to say.
Yeah.
And then the top receiver, my favorite receiver, a guy who the Saints actually were talking to reportedly earlier this week, Treylon Burks from Arkansas. If he's there, Saints, of course, with the trade now have 2 first-round picks. Whether they package those, try to trade up, a lot of people are saying that, they're going to go get a quarterback they like in the top 10. I don't think so. I think they're keeping both picks.
No.
I mean, I don't know whether that's not what I would do, but I don't think they're going to do it either. I think they want both of those first round picks. I think they want a receiver and an offensive tackle, and or a safety, and then a third of those positions will be filled via free agency. So in the next 3 weeks, they'll sign one of those three positions, a starting caliber player through free agency, and then the other two positions I think they're looking at in the first round at 16 and 19 in the draft. And if Treylon Burks is there, he's my favorite wide receiver. He's a deep threat. You put him opposite Michael Thomas, I think you've got a real dynamic duo there. So anyway, that's all speculation. We don't know who will pick whom, but that is what I'm looking at right now. Running back, Spencer, your rankings, and I think this is where, of all these lists, where you probably would get the most argument from people.
Oh yeah, I posted them on Instagram a few days ago, and yeah, the guy that I probably got the biggest flack for was having DeAndre Swift up at number 4. And I understand the reasons why some people are skeptical of him. You know, he's on Detroit, and 2, he's yet to play a full season. But I just really like what I see from him. He took a step forward last year. He caught more passes, and he seemed to be better. He was better as a runner as well. So he's just got to stay healthy. But I'm thinking he'll be able to. I think this will be his year to really break out and cement himself as an elite RB1. And they're committed to the run there in Detroit. It's an old school offense with Dan Campbell. It's not going to be the prettiest, but I feel like Swift is a guy that's yet to hit his ceiling, and he's still young and has a lot of good years left in the tank. So he's somebody and Javonte Williams too, I think is going to really take a step forward. Him and Swift if I was doing a dynasty startup auction, I'd be willing to spend a lot to try to get one or both of them if I can't get one of the big 2 with Taylor and Najee. And then after that, it gets interesting because I feel like McCaffrey, Eckler, Kamara, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, even Joe Mixon are all kind of similar in that, yeah, they've all got mileage, they've all got injury concerns, but they've all still got elite ability. I'd probably prefer CMC the best out of them because while he's had a lot of injuries recently, when he's healthy, he's still right up there with JT as the overall number 1 back. And Kamara with the suspension, this is dynasty, so with the suspension doesn't really hurt him too much there. He should be locked in as a starter for a while. Derrick Henry, I'm concerned about though, coming off that foot injury. Just not sure how much he's got left for the long haul, considering he's logged a ton of carries the past few years and is coming off a pretty serious injury. And then Chubb and Gibson to cap it off. I was hoping they'd let Gibson be the full primary runner, but they re-signed J.D. McKissick. So that tells me they're not really confident in him being an every down back. And then Chubb is really good, but they signed Watson, or they traded for Watson and still have Kareem Hunt, which kind of limits his upside.
Yeah. I mean, if it were me, I'm putting Eckler a little bit higher. I know there's some injury concern, but that guy is dynamite, and in a PPR format, just gets fed and fed and fed. And other than that, I don't have a lot of argument with you. I might put McCaffrey a little bit lower just because those soft tissue injuries, it's just like Julio Jones. They just seem to, once you start getting them, it's tough to get them to just completely go away. Seems like they're always kind of lurking around the corner.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, it's tough. Dalvin Cook too. I mean, I like Dalvin Cook, but I had him a little low because he seems like he's always got something bothering him.
Yep. All right, wide receivers. A couple of LSU guys at the top here.
Right, yeah, and it was tough to decide who to put 1 and who to put 2 out of Jets Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I was really torn there. I ended up going with Jefferson, though, since it's for PPR. Did this based off PPR score, and I feel like Jefferson's a little safer bet there. And then with Kevin O'Connell, the coach now in Minnesota, I think that's a boon for Jefferson's value. He's going to see even more looks, similar to what Cooper Kupp saw this year. Probably he's just going to get absolutely peppered with targets. And then speaking of Kupp, he comes in at 3. You know, he's a little older than the top 2, which, for redraft, he might still be number 1, but for dynasty, he's not quite as high, but he's still really good nonetheless. Same thing with Stephon Diggs. And then Devontae Adams, I'm not as down on Devontae Adams as some. A lot of people are saying he's going to be not even hardly a WR1 because of Rodgers leaving, and saying it's going to, or him leaving, Rodgers going to the Raiders. But I don't feel that. I feel he'll be just fine with the Raiders because he's already got that chemistry with Derek Carr. They were electric together in college with Fresno State, put up insane numbers, and they should be able to rekindle that in the NFL. He might not see quite as many targets as he did in Green Bay because the Raiders have probably better secondary options with Waller and Renfro, but he should still ball out. And another interesting one, Tyreek Hill going to a new team. I think he'll do well, but not quite as well as in KC. If he was still with the Chiefs, he'd probably be top 5. I'd probably have him a slot ahead of Adams. But
Debo at number 9, man. Come on.
If they too high or too low?
I think it's too low.
Too low? Yeah, well, the reason I'm concerned about Debo moving forward is because Kyle Shanahan seems to be very fickle with how he uses his players. Like, he doesn't ever seem to want to commit to, like, using anyone. Like, he's very much makes adjustments. Like, the year before, it was the Ayuk show, and then this year it was the Debo show.
And Raheem Mostert, and I know there's injuries there too, but you're right. I mean, how many people lost a lot of equity drafting Raheem Mostert last year?
Yeah, and then it was, ended up the Elijah Mitchell show. And so that's why I'm a little lower on Debo than the consensus, is because it's hard to trust anyone on the 49ers, really, just because of the way Shanahan likes to shuffle his personnel around. And then DK Metcalf, I'd like to address because a lot of people are panicking there, but I think DK will be just fine because, one, they're going to have to trade for Baker or somebody. There's no way they can go in with Drew Lock as their starter. I just don't see that happening.
Hey,
and then,
it's been a rough weekend for Mizzou fans, man. Quick, let's save
that opinion for later. I forgot he was a Mizzou boy.
It's been a rough weekend for Mizzou fans already.
For sure. And then also the fact that he could get traded. He might get traded to the Chiefs, in which case his value shoots way up.
Talking about DK, yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. How close Michael Thomas to that list?
I'd probably say he's probably like in the high 20s, so probably like low end WR2, because I think he's still got some good years left in him. I'm not too concerned about the ankle, and he's going to be, even if the Saints draft a receiver, he should still be a high volume guy. Just he doesn't have the elite touchdown upside though, so I don't think he'll be back to being a WR1, but he should be just fine as a second option.
All right. And finally, after quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers, quickly through your top 6 tight ends in Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Yeah, I only put 6 because I feel like the next, like after these 6, it's kind of like, I mean, yeah, if you have them, cool. But these are the 6 that you really need to, always make sure to keep if you're in, like, even not a full-on dynasty. Like, even if you just keep like 6 or 8 guys, like these guys are worth keeping. Pitts, of course, at the top, being that he's yet to hit his ceiling. Already had 1,000 yards and is now the sole relevant receiver there in Atlanta, with Calvin Ridley acting the fool and suspended. And then Mark Andrews had a huge year last year, should be able to replicate that. Kelsey's still up there with Hill gone. He probably see even more looks, but no longer at the top for Dynasty because of his age, over 30. Kittle would be up there too, but he's just too injury prone. But even with that, when he's healthy, he's a beast, so he's got to be on the list. And then Hawkinson and Waller to round it out. Hawkinson should continue to get better. Hopefully his health isn't too much of an issue like it's been the past couple of years. And then Waller, really good, but with Adams there, it kind of limits his upside.
Absolutely. So those are your Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings. You could check out Spencer the Guru on Instagram, and he's got those posted. We'll also have lots of fantasy football content throughout the summer on bet.nola.com. And you can check out our Masters covers this week. We'll have some baseball stuff up tomorrow as well. And Spencer, it's just a darn good time of year to be a sports fan or a fantasy sports player.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Yeah, I also want to say I have my mock draft coming out soon. I'm going to start my scouting reports. And I start watching film here. I know our boy Devin Jackson's already up on that, but I have to brush up on that myself, start evaluating. I mean, I've already started somewhat, but, really going hard with evaluating these guys and seeing where these rookies are going to land. And yeah, we'll see where they go. A lot of it, because with fantasy, a lot of it comes down to landing spots. So hopefully these talented guys like Brees Hall, Trey Burks, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, hopefully they can land in good spots so they can have even more reliable fantasy options out there.
Yeah, it's a great point because, like, I look at last year, I'm not so sure Najee Harris was the most talented running back in the class. I think I'd take Javonte Williams over him. I might take Michael Carter over him. But neither one of those guys was the full-time starter, at least to begin with. And Najee Harris not only was the full-time starter, he was a full-time starter for Mike Tomlin, who loves to run the ball anyway, and especially when you got a quarterback who couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards downfield. And all of a sudden, Najee Harris was the usage machine. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely the landing spot matters. I'll tell you what, our next fantasy roundup show will be right around draft time. It'll either be right before the NFL draft, right after. We'll talk about some of those landing spots and have a more concrete idea of how those dynasty rankings change. And then we'll start hitting it hot and heavy in the summertime.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, that's Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Our thanks to him for all the hard work, and also to Uncle Big Nick, who dropped some serious golf knowledge on us a couple days ahead of the Masters. Drop us a line. Let us know how you're doing in your fantasy leagues and with your sports bets. Hit me up at zewing@theadvocate.com, and we will we'll tell some success stories. We'll tell some bad beats. We'll do all of that stuff. So one more reminder before we go, sign up for the Caesar Sportsbook app. Get your first bet insured up to $1,100. To take advantage of that offer, go to NOLA.com/Caesars. And with that said, for Spencer the Guru, I'm Zach Ewing. This has been the Fantasy Roundup. And we hope you keep it locked to bet.nola.com. Sign up for the newsletter. And good luck.
Yes, indeed.
See you, everybody.